I want to know which of these automatic can't miss quarterbacks you're most into with the number 3 pick.
Let me breathe for a second. All right. I'm still like I've yet to do my like real draft deep dive where I can start splitting the hairs and seeing like really who I think has the edge. But the names that obviously at the top of the list are like Drake May, not Caleb Williams, he's probably going to be gone, but Drake May, Jayden Daniels, and Michael Penix Jr. Now, with Drake, I think that one, I know he gets a lot of flack for the turnover worthy plays and things like that and kind of like going off script. And he does miss reads and like he's far from a perfect prospect. He also, along with Jayden Daniels, has one of the lowest turnover worthy play rates in college football. Not even just like in their conference, in college football. So there's something to work with there. Not to mention they both are very talented. Like just when you watch Drake May, again, it's not perfect, but when you see him operate, especially when things aren't going right, he looks like he was born to play quarterback. He has really great spatial awareness to understand where, okay, if I'm about to get sacked, there's somebody here where I can still pitch the ball out. He shows anticipation. He shows downfield accuracy and short accuracy. He operates really well in rhythm, and it's hard to get him off schedule, when he doesn't commit some of his own mistakes. Because one, his accuracy is good, but he's also athletic enough that he can get out of trouble. He can scramble if he needs to just get a first down. He's a really tough guy to really get off of his rhythm. Then you got Jayden Daniels, tremendous runner, like game changing, would enter the NFL as one of its most athletic quarterbacks. Not just straight line speed. He can also make guys miss. Guys tend to misjudge how fast he is in space. Like you saw it against Alabama, where, you can say, oh, he's doing it against college players. Well, where do NFL players come from? They come from college. And a lot of them come from Alabama and the SEC. And he torched Alabama, both with his arm at times and with his legs. So I think he's got a lot of potential where even if, these guys may take a while to adjust to the NFL game, they have the physical tools to overcome that. And then obviously Michael Penix Jr., where he's got insane clutch gene. Like you've seen him in these big time games really pull through and make some outstanding plays. He is not afraid of anything. Tremendous downfield accuracy. He reads defense as well. His mechanics are pretty, all over the place. You don't like how his arm looks, but frankly, with a quarterback, it's not about how it looks. It's about what's comfortable for them and what allows them to perform optimal level. And I think that Penix, it doesn't look great, but that's what works for him. He needs to tighten up the footwork, but he can still make it work with that footwork, which is good. With him, he's also more athletic than he gets credit for. With him, the big concerns are injuries. Like with Daniels, the big concern is that he's going to get himself hurt because he's got this hero complex. It takes massive hits as a pretty skinny guy. And then with Michael Penix Jr., it's that all it takes is like one time for him to fall on his shoulder the wrong way, and it could really impact his career because he's already had. I think he tore both of his ACLs, and I think he's had surgery on his shoulder, had the same injury on the same shoulder or something like that. Significant injury history. Age is a concern, but honestly, with a quarterback, you can play till you're 40 if you're protected well. All of these guys are going to need better supporting casts. Like if you get these guys, you need to make sure they're coming into a space where they have one or two receivers they can really trust and good protection in front of them. So I think any one of those guys truly can become the face of your franchise. Drake May, I don't know as much about as just a person, but anything I've seen from Jayden Daniels and Michael Penix, like their teammates love them. They are really good representatives of their teams. So I think if you get any one of those guys, I think you're in really good shape going into the future. And I think that even if it does take a year or two for the offense to really find its rhythm, same thing happened with Tom Brady. Once again, Bill himself said that Tom Brady took a couple years, and it was 3 years because he was a rookie in 2000. It took him about 3 years to really become someone that NFL defenses knew they had to account for and fear. And I think any one of these guys, especially with their physical talent, when you talk about a Drake May or a Jayden Daniels, are one of those guys where you're going to have to fear just because they're one play away from killing you.
The NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
So who is the guy if, let's say in a universe where Bill Belichick remains the coach, who's his type of guy?
I think Penix. He just seems like a guy
really?
That, injuries aside, he just seems like
what do you do in this situation? What do you do in this situation? Like, this is where it gets interesting if you're the Patriots, right? Like, what we know is nobody knows anything, right? Because there's a bunch of people who thought Zach Wilson was great. There's some people who thought Mac Jones should have been 3. Some people thought Trey Lance was automatic. Some people thought, I don't know about this guy. People are wrong all the time with the can't miss quarterback prospects, all the time. So all I know is you want to have two things: faith in the person making the decision, which we're not sure whether or not we do or don't. And that doesn't matter if it's Bill or a new hire. You have to, like, is there how many people out there who do this job? You're like, yeah, this guy's going to pick a winner here. It's not proven, but you want to know that they love a guy, right, above all else, and know that they can get them. What you don't want is, I think, what happened with the Patriots last time, which is, I don't know, if Mac's there 15, maybe we'll take him unless we like another guy better. This is a draft where you know you need a quarterback. But, like, if you know your quarterback is Penix, are you playing this game, or are you taking him at 3, for example? Like, what do you do if you're the Patriots? Do you try to get cute and grab a guy who knows, by the time mock draft season is over, Penix could be going 4 or 5. I've seen him anywhere from 8 to the top of round 2. So nobody knows where the hell these guys are going right now. In fact, Daniels just flew up the boards to the top 3 or 4 pick in mock drafts, which, again, who knows what people think. But if you've got your guy and you're certain you want him, you want to go get him, but you also want to maximize the board, right? What do you do if you're the Patriots here? What if you love a guy you think you can get lower? Do you gamble and get scooped on it? Or do you take a guy 10 picks ahead of where you think he would go, just because this is going to be what's really interesting here? Like, are they going to love the guys we think are consensus? Or what if they love, like, Mac Jones to San Francisco was the perfect example, right? Like, nobody thought Jones was a top 3 pick except maybe one guy, and it, I guess, went down to the wire, right? Like,
yeah, I think that Jayden is probably, like, if you're talking about you have the 3rd pick, I'm not sure.
If your guy is Nix, if your guy is Penix, and you think you can get him later, I don't know. I don't know what you do here. Do you start to take some gambles and try to move around and maximize? Because, again, not to go back and belabor the earlier point, you need freaking everything, and impact players at receiver, tackle, and quarterback, typically you have to take early. And right now you've got 2 picks. One presumably for a quarterback, and then one at the top of the 2nd round where you can probably still grab a very high quality touted guy with possibly even a low 1st round grade there too, or the flexibility to move up. But in terms of blue chip talent, you got 2 cracks at it next year, and you need 5, 6, 7 different things. So that might be a smart thing to dance around the board.
Yeah, offensively, I think, like, you don't mess around. I think you get the face of your franchise because you haven't had one. You thought Mac might have been that in year 1, and then in year 2, you started to say, all right, yeah, like, he's in a tough position, but it's not looking like he's really the guy. And on top of that, I think it'd be good, like, a guy like Jayden Daniels. I like him. I think Caleb Williams and Drake May, you can open up the playbook a little bit and get them involved in the run game. But I think Jayden, like, everything is at your disposal. I think you can open up, like, we've already seen what Bill O'Brien could do with the Deshaun Watson, where he was able to maximize his athleticism and really put defenses in tough spots. I think that he is the best pick because, one, you've seen him do it against top defenses consistently, and that's the really big thing. He's also, like, Belichick loves experienced quarterbacks. He's a 5th-year starter. He's seen a ton of different defenses. So I said Penix just because I do think he's smart. I think he shows a lot of things that you like, but I also think that, even if he does sneak into the top 15, maybe even the top 10, I think he's going to be top 15. Even if he sneaks into the top 10, I think there are still, like, the athletic limitations relative to the other prospects, as well as the injury history is gonna, I think he's the guy that you take when those top 3 guys are off. Because it's like, these seem like guys where their ceilings are really high and their floors, based on what we've seen, are also pretty high.
I remembered it. Ben Johnson turned down the Colts. That's who it was. Ben Johnson turned down everybody last year for that exact reason. He didn't like the situation.
But that's understandable because the Lions had, like, a juggernaut, which
he turned down Carolina. He turned down Carolina and the Colts, who were going to get top picks at quarterbacks. He did exactly
also,
that last
Jimmer,
year.
I also wonder how much that had to do with.
He actually did exactly what
Jimmer do. Because Jimmer saying David Tepper are not nearly as attractive as Robert Kraft, who's going to give you control and get it back off.
For some reason I went back 2 years. Johnson did exactly the same thing with two teams in similar situations to the Patriots last year. But anyway,
yeah, and also I do think ownership is a big part of that as well, because Robert Kraft, he has a track record of being like, hey, I'll give you the ship, like just don't mess it up, and you can do what you got to do. I'm a fan. I just want to be here and watch, and I will give you the like. Everybody likes to act like Kraft is cheap. I don't think that's the case. I think that Robert Kraft would give Bill or whoever as much money as they needed or as many resources they needed to make the football team better. But yeah, again, to the quarterback point, I think Daniels is the guy. I still need to watch more, and this is also because I don't think. I mean, it's all ifs and coulds. Like we're talking about the future that we don't know yet. I'm trying to, be as grounded as possible, but I also think that when you actually have high round picks, whereas the Patriots are usually right in the middle where they can't get the elite of the elite, I think you're in a range where you can get some elite talent. And I think that is like a Jayden Daniels and a Drake May. And with all of these guys, like we always talk about the quarterbacks who don't succeed in all these things. The most important thing is what you're surrounded by. So at the end of the day, you still need to build a strong offensive line. You still need to give this guy at least 2 receiving threats and a good run game so that he's not doing everything by himself and has to develop the superhero complex like we've seen with Drake May at NC State or North Carolina, like you see with Caleb Williams at USC, or these guys know that if they don't make certain plays, they're not going to win because their supporting cast aren't good enough to keep them in games. Whereas like a Jayden Daniels doesn't really have that, because he had the talent and he could actually play within the structure of the offense and then, go outside of it when he needed to. So I think he has less of the yips, or like less potential for the yips than do those other guys. He's probably a guy you're going to be able to get.
Well, does it feel like Drake May is not that he doesn't have a skill set. Does he seem at this stage as the highest likelihood to ruin your life quarterback, where like it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, but it's not a duck, like he's one of those types of guys? Because again, everything I've read about him is looks the part, right? Has that mobility, can make some big time throws, can improvise, can throw off platform, can use his legs, has pocket maneuverability, but maybe not the greatest presence, and accuracy can work, and he's not as good with his lower body, and he can't do this and that, and like it's like the buts are always a little concerning, which is like, but still kind of figuring out the whole quarterback thing.
And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to flavor. Like, I'm not saying I'm right in this. You can absolutely debate me, and you might be right. You're not right, but nobody's right. I think it really is just what you like, what your preference is.
And you're more likely to be right than a lot of people. I'm just saying,
I think what he is like, if you're comfortable with Josh Allen, who isn't the size of a linebacker, like Drake May's a big dude. He's not that big, but if you're cool with like a Josh Allen,
6'4",
yeah,
he's a big
but
dude.
I'm just saying, like Josh Allen's like he's 250. Like Josh Allen is rare, where he has like more Cam Newton in terms of like he'll truck a linebacker. If Drake May is in front of a linebacker, I want him sliding. With Josh, I'm like, all right, maybe you throw your shoulder down if it's like you got to have the yards. But yeah, I mean, if you're comfortable with like a Josh Allen, where like worst case scenario, he's a super talented guy who can, take on a game or flip the script of a game in a second, but also is going to make some probably really bad mistakes.
Josh Allen just threw a horrible interception as we're talking about.
That's hilarious. So yeah, so it's
horrible back foot red zone interception. Yeah.
But Josh Allen's also perennially in the playoffs, or at least contender to be. So that gets you to a different place. And these are all different players. Like Josh just has this thing in his head where he cannot shake that hero complex. And then you're hoping that and I don't know this. I'm not trying to say that they're gonna. I don't like to presume that a guy's bad habits are just going to evaporate. But, at the end of the day, when guys get better, like a Patrick Mahomes, it could be a Josh Allen where you never really learn to stop doing the dumb things, or it could be Patrick Mahomes where you realize, okay, which again, Andy Reid is a big part of this, where you realize, okay, I need to play within structure. And eventually you realize, yes, I can still be an athlete, but it's better for me and my team if I do what I'm supposed to do within the first 2.5 seconds of the play. And you never know, whether or not a guy's going to latch onto that or not. That's part of the game, but it helps based on who he's surrounded by. I think Bill O'Brien is still a very good quarterback coach, but I also think that when you have Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, who don't have a good offensive line and don't have a lot of guys they can trust to throw to, I mean, even Zappi, like I will still say what he did with what he had, still pretty spectacular given the circumstances. But like if you put Jayden Daniels in that mix and you give him just a couple more guys who actually have some talent and somewhat scare at defense, I think that that's enough where O'Brien can really unlock the potential. Because again, we saw it, like Deshaun Watson was an MVP candidate under Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien was the one building that offense around him. Like I think he was responsible for Laramie Tunsil. I'm pretty sure he's one of the best left tackles in football. So yeah, I think it's still a flavor thing, but I think that if you give Bill O'Brien the pieces that he needs, this is under the presumption that he stays. I don't think he's in any rush to leave. He hasn't. He's hinted
really
more that he's going to stay than the opposite.
I'm really dubious
yeah.
that O'Brien's here next year.
I mean, I think it's also more of a family thing. Like, I think his family's here. He's got roots here. And he's already done that. He's done the college thing. He just got out of college. He's done the NFL head coach thing. I don't know how quickly he wants to just up and leave and start totally fresh. Plus, if we're being very honest, there's a lot of candidates that would probably be ahead of him because of the newer age guys. And I've acknowledged, and I think that Bill O'Brien can do a better job creating space and using motion in kind of more modern ways. Like, he can definitely get better and improve, but I think it helps when you also have people that scare a defense and then you can evolve rather than having a completely different array of talent every single week.